Hello. This is Lauren and Taylor.
This man here gonna be for the kids. I would go to school with the kids on me. Y'all told me what y'all told me that time. Y'all said I didn't even know dead bodies and stuff fall out or whatever it's called when you die. It's stink. I didn't know that. So I'm talking to her why she leave.
December 2016 was supposed to be a normal and happy Christmas for the family of Taylor Mcallister, a 22-year-old mother of two. But 2 days before Christmas, their worst nightmare came through when Taylor's lifeless body was found abandoned in an alley in St. Petersburg, Florida.
I gotta know what happened to Taylor. Can you tell me anything about how she died?
She was lying there half naked with fresh marks and scratches all over her body. What happened to Taylor? And how did she get here? Will her killers ever be found? Let's find out what makes this case a mystery and why nobody has been convicted of it. Taylor Mcallister was a self-taught singer and guitarist who loved to share her talent with the world through her YouTube channel. Her voice was so angelic that it could melt even the most hardened voice. Taylor was born on July 21st, 1994 in Melbourne, Florida, to a loving family of Bill and Leslie Mcallister, who described her as a kind-hearted and lively person.
Taylor just had this incredible and vibrant personality. She was just an outgoing, loving young lady who loved life. She loved everybody that she met, and everybody instantly fell in love with her.
She was a social butterfly with a bubbly personality and loved going to the beach and playing in the sand. Taylor always lived life to the fullest and never missed an opportunity to have fun with her bright smile that made everyone around her like her. Behind her bright smiles was a dark side that few people knew about, a darkness that would lead her down a dangerous path that would eventually destroy her life. It all started at age 18 when she first moved out of her parents' house and started associating with a group of friends who introduced her to addictive substances. And before she knew it, she became an addict and was experimenting with various dangerous substances. However, Taylor retraced her steps very quickly by confiding in her parents.
She called one day and said, "Hey, I'm doing some stuff that I shouldn't be doing, and I need to come back home." So of course we said, what is it and what are you doing? And she said, I'm taking pills and I'm doing some things that I don't want to be doing before it gets out of hand. I just need to be back home.
They welcomed her home with open arms and helped her recover from her addiction. Shortly after that, she started working as a Coast Guard at a Japanese restaurant close to her parents' home. And that's where she met a man named Joshua, whom she fell deeply in love with and married after 3 months of dating. By March 2014, they had 2 lovely twin girls, Charlie and Madison. Taylor adored her children, but she also felt overwhelmed by the responsibilities of motherhood. She would then turned to the painkillers to cope with the stress, but soon became helplessly dependent on them. Usually, Joshua would have been in the best position to help her out, but the problem was that he too was an addict, and he in fact reintroduced her to the substance use from the time they met. Just a typical case of birds of the same feather. Over time, their relationship deteriorated and eventually hit rock bottom on October 2016 when Joshua was checking into rehab. Meanwhile, Taylor's parents had tried all they could to help their daughter, but her situation got worse by the day. While she was pregnant with her twin girls, her parents had asked her to come home and stay with them because they didn't want her to be alone. It was during this time that they noticed her addiction to prescription pills because of how often she would call her doctor for refills.
She blew through them rapidly, and that's when we first knew that there was a huge issue with addiction.
Both parents tried to help her get clean several times, but she always went back to using. Things got more ugly, and she mixed pills with other addictive substances. Bill and Leslie watched their once bubbly daughter become a shadow of her former self as she descended into the abyss of hopelessness. The only thing they could do for her at the time was take the twin girls away from her, because staying with her would put their lives in danger. This move by her parents relieved Taylor of every form of responsibility. And next, she was on the streets, and her destination, the red light district. It was around this time that she met a woman who introduced her to a website called Backpage. This was supposed to be a classified advertisement website. At least, that's what they presented it to be. But in reality, it was a marketplace where women hawked their bodies for money, narcotics, or whatever the men could offer. It was while on this website that Taylor met 52-year-old Robert Butler III, a man who would take her life from her and destroy it forever. Robert Butler III was the son of Robert Butler Jr., the late founder of Bob's Carpet and Flooring. Butler was the heir to his father's company, and that position meant that money was never an issue. But he was bad news and had a lengthy criminal record that included aggravated assault, battery, illegal possession of firearms, and addictive substances, as well as multiple misdemeanors and 3 DUIs. He was also a suspect in a case of overdose of a teenage girl in Manatee County. From the time Taylor started seeing Butler, he became obsessed with her. And since she was homeless at the time, it was easy for him to convince her to move in with him at his Palm Harbor mansion in Florida. Butler leveraged Taylor's addiction to control her. He had money and addictive substances readily available for her, and in just a few months of being together, Butler was said to have spent an upwards of $200,000 on narcotics alone.
He became obsessed with her. He asked her to move in with him. He started giving her money, drugs, clothing.
Soon, Taylor lost contact with her family and friends as Butler shut her off from the outside world and confined her in his home. Her family literally had no idea where she was, who she was with, or what she was doing at the time. According to her mother, the last she heard from her was through a text message in September 2016, when she had texted to wish her a happy birthday.
She said, "Happy birthday, Mommy. I know you're mad at me. I love you so much." And 22 years old, and she still called me Mommy. And that kills me. And that's the last text that we ever got.
She never heard from her daughter or about her again until December 22nd, 2016. The last time Taylor Mcallister was seen alive was on December 21st, 2016 at Robert Butler's home. Around 11:30 a.m. the next day, Leslie was at work as a paramedic when she received the devastating news that Taylor's lifeless body was found in an alleyway in St. Petersburg, Florida.
And they sat me down in an office by myself. And this man that I'd never seen in my life said, "I'm sorry, Miss Mcallister, we found Taylor deceased this morning."
The responding officers arrived at the scene to find a partially naked Taylor with severe marks and cuts inside her mouth. They also recovered foreign DNA samples from her fingernails and neck. After some preliminary investigation, her death was ruled a homicide and an investigation was launched. First, they went knocking on Butler's door because Taylor's friends had come forward to say that Taylor lived with him and that he was the last person to see her alive. The officer who interviewed Butler noted several scratch marks on Butler's forehead, nose, and forearms. He also had a fresh bruise on one of his shoulders. So they obtained his DNA sample, which would later match the DNA recovered from Taylor's body. When questioned about his relationship with Taylor and the events leading up to her death, Butler initially claimed that he hadn't seen her since December 17th and that they didn't really have a relationship. She was what he referred to as a working girl, whom he met from time to time. However, when he noticed that the officers knew otherwise and that they weren't buying his story, Butler began to talk. According to him, he had found Taylor extremely sick and almost unconscious in his home. He claimed that she had overdosed on narcotics and needed medical attention. He then called 2 of his friends, Deontay Baker and Quarren Archer, and gave them one of his car keys to take her to the hospital, and that was the last time he saw her. Now the officers have established that whatever happened to Taylor was somewhere between the Butler's home and the alleyway where her body was found. With these new leads on the case, the officers left Butler alone and went after Deontay Baker and Quarren Archer.
Do you think she was dead at the house?
She was
still alive.
She was alive.
Okay.
But she's like, crazy.
After a call from Robert Butler on December 22, 2016, Deontay and Archer arrived at his residence to find bruised and nearly unconscious Taylor, whom Butler instructed them to load into his white Tundra truck and take to the hospital. The duo and Butler had been involved in some shady business before now. It was even suspected that Deontay was his illegal substance supplier at the time. So, on that day, they didn't bother to ask too many questions about what he was getting them involved in. They just did as he said.
She just died
Where did she die?
in the truck.
Okay, so let's back up because you're going from in the house where she's high, laying on the bed, moving around.
We got in the truck. She went to the truck.
According to them, Taylor would die on their way to the hospital, and they didn't know what to do with the dead body.
She stopped me. And then she fell. I felt that she ended up laying down to the side like that.
Okay.
So it started stinking.
She laying down all the way or leaning against the door?
She was like, I don't know. I know
She on her side, her back?
She was like, sit up and you lay down like this.
But then, they noticed Taylor was still groaning.
As soon as Archer touched her arm, she was, she was moaning and groaning.
They considered continuing their journey to the hospital to see if her life could be saved, but that was not what they did.
When I died, they came and they seen her and they like, she dead. So they heard that.
That's
I'm
what
not trying. I said, hell no.
No, he told you she was dead.
Yeah.
They eventually realized that Taylor was dead for good because she no longer had a pulse and was not breathing either. So they decided to take her back to Butler's place, but Butler was furious.
I called him again. She had to come back. We have to do what's right. She had to come back. No, she can't come back here. That's what he told me. She can't come back here.
Archer would then suggest that they dig a hole and bury her.
No, y'all can't do this. Just leave her. Just leave her. And that's what I told him to do.
I kept saying, call the police, bro. I'm like, please. And I was scared in my heart. Like, literally, you can hear it.
However, after nightfall, they would all then drive to an alley on 63rd Avenue in South St. Petersburg, where they dumped her body. They then returned to Butler's place and destroyed every evidence that possibly could link them to the case. Taylor's death was a mystery that has haunted her loved ones for a long time. They all suspected Butler of killing her and dumping her body in the alleyway, but the police had a different theory. First, they dismissed the coroner and medical examiner's filing of her death as a homicide, because according to them, there was no proof that Butler was responsible for her death. They said that the cause of Taylor's death was unclear because apart from being found naked, bruised, and with tire marks across her legs, they said that she had some underlying health problems caused by years of substance abuse. They also speculated that Taylor might have died of an overdose and that Butler had just panicked and tried to get rid of her body. So instead of charging Butler with homicide or any degree of murder, they charged him alongside his two accomplices with failing to report a death, a minor offense that could only land him in jail for 3 years at most. A slap on the wrist for a possible killer. The court proceedings started in December 2017, but before then, on December 12, 2017, Robert Butler's home was raided by the police. But they weren't exactly looking for clues about Taylor Mcallister's murder, which happened in his backyard. Their search warrant for this raid was for a federal money laundering charge against him. Investigators recovered firearms, narcotics, evidence of money laundering, and it was also said that they found Taylor's guitar and Bible in his home. So while Robert and his accomplices faced trial, their list of charges grew from just failure to report death to include money laundering charges, possession of narcotics, and felony possession of ammunition. Robert pleaded guilty to all charges. He got a year in jail for hiding Taylor's body and 27 months for laundering money. He got a reduced sentence because he helped convict Deontay, who got a longer sentence for the same crime. Archer got 6 months for his role in the cover-up. But Taylor's family was not satisfied. They felt that the police had used Taylor's death as a pretext to bust a drug ring. They believed that the justice system was rigged and had failed to honor their daughter's life by thoroughly investigating her suspected killers. Remember that on the day of Taylor's death, the officer who interviewed Butler recorded that Butler's face and arms were covered with fresh scratches? Also, Taylor's DNA matched with the foreign DNA sample that was found on Taylor's neck and under her fingernails. And then the detectives had told Taylor's family that the day she was was found, there was no signs of trauma on her body. But on the day of her funeral, which was, by the way, the first time her parents were allowed to see her body, they saw their daughter's body was covered in injuries, marks, and obvious signs of trauma.
And there was bruising around both of her arms, circumferential, and they were not track marks. You could see her track marks, and these were bruises. She had a bruise right on her forehead, right where I had the bruise. And her right ear was completely purple and deformed.
Yet, the investigators said that they didn't have enough evidence to file for more serious charges against Butler and his co-conspirators. How could they ever have substantial evidence when Robert Butler was never taken into custody for proper interrogation and his home was not searched until a year after Taylor's death? But then, all the crucial evidence like surveillance video, Taylor's clothes, and her belongings were all gone. The house had been cleaned, the mattress she slept on was replaced, and Butler's white Toyota Tundra, in which she had died, had been cleaned inside and out. It's been 7 years since Taylor died, and as of October 2023, her family still has a lot of questions unanswered about what happened to their daughter. They're still hoping that the authorities will finally serve justice and honor their daughter's life. In a Facebook post from December 22nd, 2022, Taylor's mother, Leslie Mcallister, wrote, "Today marks 6 years since the murder of our beautiful Taylor. 6 years and still waiting for justice. 6 years of waiting for a corrupt St. Petersburg Police Department to do its job. St. Petersburg PD. 6 years of cowardly and weak officers hiding behind their badges who failed to do what they were sworn to do. Robert Butler has gotten away with murder because of his connected defense attorney." What do you think about this case? Do you think the detectives involved in Taylor's case had enough evidence to rule her death as a homicide or any degree of murder to charge Robert Butler accordingly? Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. And if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay safe.